Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for joining us to kick off this year's Awareness Week. We have a lot of exciting activities planned throughout the week, which you can find on the Mito Action website at www.mitoaction.org/awareness. We're so excited to have you join us for our Mito community call to get the week started. Tonight's presentation encourage you to come back, re-listen, and share the recording with them and be with us. I assure you that you will hear tonight will uplift us all, and we could all definitely use a little bit of hope and inspiration these days. At the end of tonight's presentation, we will have a brief Q&A, and I encourage you to submit your questions for our speaker using the chat feature at the bottom of your screen, or if you're joining us via phone, email your questions to info@mitoaction.org. Tonight, we are excited to have with us motivational rare disease speaker, Kyle Bryant of the infamously known Two Disabled Dudes. At age 17, Kyle was devastated when he was diagnosed with a rare, debilitating, life-shortening disease called Friedreich's ataxia. Walkers, wheelchairs, vision loss, hearing loss, and a premature death were all in his future. However, Kyle took this bleak situation and turned it into an opportunity to provide hope to the Friedreich's ataxia community and empowering others, riding his recumbent trike thousands of miles and raising millions for FA research. Kyle shares his outlook and how to turn adversity into opportunity in his keynote speeches. Kyle is sure to change perspectives and inspire us into action. Kyle graduated from the University of California at Davis with a degree in civil engineering. He worked 5 years as an engineer before finding his calling through cycling and spreading empowerment to others. As the founder director of for the Ataxia Research Alliance, Kyle and his team produce family-friendly bike rides across the country, empower those with FA, ride 6 locations nationwide, and has raised over $7 million for FA research since 2007. There is no place that Kyle would rather be than on his cat trike. As a member of the dynamic duo, Two Disabled Dudes, Kyle has delivered presentations across the US to inspire, including being a TEDx speaker. Kyle is author of the book, Shifting into High Gear. The book shares Kyle's journey of striving to be his best possible self while living with medical challenges. After tonight's call, we will randomly draw 2 winners from our registered participants to receive a copy of Kyle's book. Please join me in welcoming Kyle Bryant.
All right. Thank you so much for that introduction. That was very generous. Appreciate it. So I'm going to share my screen here in a little bit, but really what I wanted to say first off is that I am so happy to be here because I love more than anything almost, maybe not more than riding my trike, but maybe it's a second. I love connecting with other people in the rare disease community, other people that share similar struggles and similar challenges. And a lot of them are physical, a lot of them are mental, but it's so wonderful to connect with others who understand. And I know everyone out there may have felt it at one time or another, that you almost don't have to say anything and you can feel comfortable with somebody who has a rare disease. And if you haven't felt that before, I encourage you to reach out to others and just have a conversations, and you'll experience that amazing connection. So a little, I will share this. All right. Let me know if you can. It should be a blank screen. So, um, when I was young, I drifted along like all happy kids, and I was genuinely happy. I had a loving family, lots of friends, and plenty of sports and activities to keep me busy. Seemed like nothing staying in the way of my perfect low key life. Breeze through school, low stress work, retirement age 65, 72 or so. I had no extraordinary plans, no reason to push myself. Then I hit a roadblock. At age 17, I was diagnosed with Friedrich's ataxia. Friedrich's ataxia? What the heck is that? I could hardly pronounce it, let alone know what it was going to mean for me and my family for the rest of our lives. Well, over the next couple of years, my family and I found out that Friedrich's ataxia is a rare neuromuscular mitochondrial disease that affects all muscle coordination from the toes to the fingertips. We found out that it would only be a matter of time before I'm in a wheelchair. It would only be a matter of time before I lose all ability to take care of myself. And it would only be a matter of time before my heart fails and I suffer a premature death. I don't know about you, but in my book, it's kind of a bummer. And to make matters worse, there's no treatment, no cure, and at the time, very little hope. And I was 17. 17 is the pinnacle of optimism. Your whole life is in front of you. And I found out that it was nothing but downhill from here on out. So I lived with those facts for a few years. I graduated high school. I went to college at UC Davis in California, where I lived at the time. And I got a good job in an engineering firm in Sacramento, California. All the while, I was losing the ability to perform in sports I love. Sports like baseball, basketball, golf, and skiing. When it came time for me to give up my upright bicycle, I put my foot down. Said, that's enough. It's enough of losing all these sports and activities that mean so much to me. And I found a recumbent tricycle. My first thought was, tricycle? It's kind of lame. Tricycles are for clowns and little kids. But I was up against this roadblock, this situation that life had thrown my way. And this was my opportunity to react. So I went for a test ride. And as I was rolling the line, I absolutely fell in love with the freedom that came with this new machine. It was a freedom I hadn't felt in years. And I started riding. My first ride was 7 miles. 7 miles. I was so proud of myself. I had no idea I had that in me. My next ride was 14 miles, then 25, then 50, then only 4 months after my very first ride, I went for a century ride. 100 miles in a day. What was I thinking? Well, once again, I was up against this roadblock, this situation that life had thrown my way. And this was my opportunity to react. Well, I was the last one on the road that day. All the other riders had finished their ride, packed up their bikes, and were driving home by the time I crossed the finish line. But I had done it 100 miles in a day. Are you kidding me? I can't even walk down the street, and I just rode 100 miles in a day. From then on, the sky was the limit. I started thinking huge. I decided that I wanted to ride my trike to the meeting of the National Ataxia Foundation, a meeting of people with ataxia just like me. Well, that year the meeting was in Memphis, Tennessee, and I live in California. What a crazy idea. But once again, I was up against this roadblock, this situation that life had thrown my way, and this was my opportunity to react. So on January 22nd, 2007, my dad and I left from San Diego, California. We were going to ride our bikes to Memphis, Tennessee. 2,500 miles, and 59 days later, we rode by Graceland. We rode our bikes to Elvis's house. Talk about all shook up. We couldn't believe what we'd done. And over the next few years, my family and I did several more journeys. We rode from Sacramento to Las Vegas, Nevada, from Portland, Oregon to Seattle, Washington. And during this time, I was receiving messages from people in the FA community and people all over the world that were telling me, because they were reading my blog, they were telling me how the actions in my life were helping them face challenges in theirs. And I knew that I wanted to keep going. So in 2010, I put together a team for the world's toughest bike race. And if you know the two disabled dudes, you will recognize one of these people. Well, two, I guess, because one of them is me. But in the back on the left, that's Sean. In the middle is John. And upper right, that's Mike. So, Race Across America, get this. You wake up after about 2.5 hours sleep at 3 a.m. And first of all, you try and remember where you are. Then you get up, you put your shoes on, scarf with peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and you ride like mad in the rain, in the dark, somewhere in Indiana. So this is Race Across America, and this was the route that we rode. And at every dot there, that's a time station. And so we're traveling a couple weeks before the race. I got an email from somebody I didn't know. Dear Kyle, I just wanted you to know that 1 month ago today, my 12-year-old daughter, Natalie, was diagnosed with FA. I look online and I can't find much hope. But every time I see your team, it gives me hope. Thank you for making this mother realize that it's not too late to find a cure for my sweet baby. And that was the picture that was and that is the message that certainly our team across the country. So I showed you a map of the with all those little dots, and all those were time stations, and again every time station to so the users could make sure we weren't like taking it across country or something, right? So at each of those time, well, not each one, but at some of those time stations, the FA community came out to meet us on the road, and we would pull into the time station. We'd shake hands. They'd look us in the eye and tell us how proud they were of us. We'd chat for a few minutes. We had to keep going. Well, one of those people, one of those families that sticks out to me is Jack. Jack and his family came to meet us about 100 miles from the finish line. It was day 8, and I was tired, sore, and crabby. I pull into the time station, and immediately I see Jack with his little walker and his tiny leg braces, and I started feeling sorry for him. I was feeling sorry for the fact that Jack had to deal with the FA at such a young age. And then he came up to him. He looked me in the eye. He stuck out his hand for a handshake. And he said, "Hi, I'm Jack. I have a trike just like that. And your team has inspired me to ride 5 miles in my neighborhood for FA research this summer." And that threw our whole team for a loop. At the time stations, you have to check in. We forgot to check in. We stopped at the time station and we forgot to check in. We actually got a time penalty, 20 seconds or no, that anyway, insignificant. But because we were so affected by this message, 3,000-mile bike race all the way across the US. And one of the most significant things that happened to us on that whole race was this little 10-year-old boy seeking his opportunity to affect us and affect the cause just by the way he treated us and just by what he was doing in his life to support the cause. And I think that's really amazing that we all have the ability to affect each other and the direction of our lives just by the way we treat each other. That's pretty awesome. And it's something I'll never forget, a lesson that Jack taught me. So 100 miles later, on Father's Day, 2010, Team Farah crossed the finish line of the world's toughest bike race. It was 1:15 a.m. We were 19 hours ahead of the cutoff time and first in our division, I think. There were only 3 teams, but no one needs to know that. Don't tell anyone. But this was not only an amazing personal accomplishment for me, but it was an accomplishment for the entire FA community. These were the people that came out and saw us on the road. And these were the people that were sending us text messages and emails and Facebook messages encouraging us to keep pedaling for the cause. And so I see it as the entire FA community finished this race. And if we can finish the world's toughest bike race together, there's no reason why we can't treat and cure Friedreich's ataxia. So, in 2009, I came on staff at the Friedreich's Ataxia Research Alliance, and we started building a nationwide series of bike rides that raises awareness and funds for FA research. Now, as you heard earlier, we have 6 locations, but as you can imagine, It was all virtual this year. We actually snuck one ride in February before the world ended, and we had our Southern California ride in Huntington Beach at the end of February, and then the rest of the year was converted into virtual challenges. And so we did a virtual challenge for the Northern California ride and for the Chicago ride, and we logged all of our miles. And for Northern California, our goal was to cross the country with the miles that we all aggregated and logged together. Well, we were crossing our fingers hoping we could get across the country once, and we ended up doing it. By the end of the month-long challenge, we ended up crossing the country 8 times. So this turned into a really fun and empowering thing for the event that's coming up September 25th to October 24th. Anyone can get involved if they just visit rideataxi.org. You can get involved in the global challenge, and we're going to all aggregate our miles on an app called Strava, and we're going to attempt to ride all the way around the world. We're engaging many of our international partners on this ride, and we're going to highlight FA research all over the world during this campaign as well. So everyone is invited to join us. If you ride a bike, then come on down. If you don't, there's also, we have an activity log. Any activity that engages your mind, body, or spirit counts. 10 minutes equals 1 mile. And so anyone can contribute to the cause. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I just wanted to share, this is really what makes our event special to me, is the community, right? As you can imagine. And this is just a representation of the community at some of our events. So I have a couple of stories for you. Um, and um, you know what? I have a couple of stories for you. I am gonna stop sharing real quick so I can load those up. Um, but I wanted to share a few stories from the road, and because I think there's a couple of things that really illustrate a few points that I want to make. Um, and I will share here in another second. My apologies. This is a Zoom no, but we're doing it anyway. And all right, a story from the road. So, during our ride across the country from San Diego to Memphis, we rode, no, excuse me, I'm sorry. It was our ride from Sacramento, California to Las Vegas, Nevada. And for 8 days, we rode down the Valley of California. And we were, you know, if anyone knows the geography of California, it's a big valley, right? And so we rode down the middle, and it was smooth sailing for 8 days, nice and flat. I think we even had a tailwind, maybe, and it was really incredible. Then we hit Bakersfield, and we took a sharp left to head towards Las Vegas. And I think, wait, sorry, let me let me share this again here. Okay, I think I'm sharing now. Someone please let me know if there's a problem. Um, so we got to Bakersfield. We took a sharp left over the mountains, and this is what we saw.
We see a black screen. Is that what we're supposed to see?
Yep,
Okay, perfect.
there we go. Thank you. And this is what we saw: the Tehachapi mountain range. And that mountain is 4,000 feet tall. And just for scale, the wheels on my trike are 24 inches. How am I going to ride this little tricycle up a mountain that's 4,000 feet tall? Well, what it took that day was 10 miles an hour for 5 miles an hour for 8 hours to get to the top of that mountain. And this is where we ended up. Tehachapi Summit, and that's my dad on the left, my Uncle Steve in the middle, and that was something really that taught me, like, it was a pain to get over that mountain, but really it was just one pedal stroke at a time, right? A few inches at a time. All those pedal strokes strung together got us to the top of the mountain. It's not a hard concept, but I think it's a concept that really applies to a lot of things in our lives. So, last year, my book came out, Shifting into High Gear. We're going to get a couple of those given away. You could see my website and my handle there down there for Twitter and Instagram. I would love to see you guys on social media. And then we get to the podcast. Sean and I started this podcast, Two Disabled Dudes. We started it almost 4 years ago. We now have 117 excuse me, yeah, 119, doesn't matter, 119 episodes, and we really love talking to people who are living life beyond circumstances, whether that's a rare disease or a financial circumstance or where you grew up or whatever your challenge is, your perceived challenge in life. Um, we love talking about strategies and ways to get over those things. And so one of our recent episodes that brings up a topic that we encounter a lot, and I'm sure a lot of you out there have encountered this as well. I had just got a haircut, and I was sitting in the shade in my wheelchair, flipping through Instagram on my phone, and a lady came up to me, and she was asking questions about my wheelchair and about, oh my gosh, she was I told her that I go, she asked me, so can you use a computer? And I said, yeah, I use one at work every day. And do you need help? Do you need someone to pick you up? No, that's my car right there. I don't need someone to pick me up. And it was just clear to me that she saw somebody in a wheelchair that was helpless and needed her help. And so this Sean and I, and well, we talk about this concept of that your disability is not you. I think a lot of us with disabilities understand that clearly. But for me, it's almost like my disability is something separate from who I am. And if this lady was trying to connect with me, she was missing the mark because she had put my disability between her and I. And so this is a little bit of what we talk about people first language, right? And I think that, that's something that comes to mind when I think about people first language, considering the person rather than the disease. It seems like a really simple and no duh thing, but it's it's something that we all need to think about. I think it's connecting with a person rather than letting the disease or disability be the thing that stands in the way. And so, Sean and I talk about self perception a whole lot too. Um, and when we interview people, one time Sean and I were doing an interview and somebody else was asking us questions, and they asked, what is the one of the unifying traits of all the people that you've interviewed on your show? And we've interviewed disabled athletes, professional speakers, authors, psychologists, all kinds of people with disabilities. And the one of the major things that unites all of them in their thinking, in my perception, is that none of them see themselves as having a disability. Maybe it's clear to everyone else, but in their mind and the way I see myself, and I'm pretty sure this is part of how Sean sees himself too, is that the disability is something else. And I am a guy who's living life and getting through the best I can every day and trying to make an impact in this world. And sure, FA is along for the ride, but it is certainly not something that gets in my way or even that I think about every day. Or not every day. No, of course I think about every day. But when I wake up in the morning, I don't sit there and go, "Oh my god, this sucks. I have a FA again today." Like, no, that's not what happened. And my first thought is, all right, what do I need to do to accomplish the things I need to accomplish today to get to my end goal? And so in that way, we talk about self-perception a whole lot. And I think that really self-perception and self-image really plays into a lot of the conversations we have with each other and with the people around us. So one thing I wanted to, just the last thing I wanted to talk about, and then I'd love to get into questions and answer questions. I wanted to talk about the title of our podcast. And two disabled dudes. Like, all right, here it is. We're not trying to hide anything. Let's put this out there and see what happens, right? And you know what? Excuse me, sorry. Once we talk about the disability. Let's get that out of the way, because what we really want to do is talk about things that matter, things that affect lives. And so we want to get this disability thing up front. Let's discuss it, and then let's think maybe a little beyond that and figure out what we can do in life. So those are a few principles from the podcast. And I thank you for allowing me to share my story and a few of the principles from my life. And um someone
Thank, thanks, Kyle. Go ahead.
absolutely, well, this is really embarrassing, but someone is ringing my doorbell, so give me like 3 seconds. I'm
Okay,
gonna
go
get it
ahead.
real quick.
Okay, go ahead. While Kyle is going to answer the door, just again, we'll give you guys a quick reminder of some of the events and activities that we have going on this week for Awareness Week. Tomorrow, if you are a fellow Peloton rider or know of anybody that is, I will be writing a class at tomorrow evening at 7:30 with the hashtag for Mito to spread awareness for mitochondrial disease. So that will be our next event tomorrow. And then we also have our tackle Mito theme where we're asking people to send in a picture of them catching and throwing a ball. Could be a football, could be a bundled up pair of socks, and we'll merge all of those videos together, and it'll look like we're all throwing and catching to each other and showing how we're all working together to tackle Mito. So we encourage you guys all to participate. Again, you can learn more about the events at info@mitoaction.org/awareness. And we encourage you to, to participate. All right, Kyle, ready for some questions?
I am so ready, yeah.
Okay.
And that I love that concept of the video. That
Yeah,
sounds like it's gonna be really fun.
yeah. Well, you'll have to do it and send it to us because you can do it.
I'm down. Yeah, I love to.
I love it. I love it. So, a couple questions that we have for you. If you could provide one piece of advice to some of our younger patients, our teenagers who recently received a new diagnosis,
Yeah.
now being on the other side and living an incredible life despite your diagnosis, what would be your biggest word of advice to those kids who are trying to find their way through this new diagnosis?
My number one advice, the thing that changed my life the most, is getting involved in the community and connecting with other people. When you realize that you're not alone, that you're not the only one that is different, and you're not different anymore, right? When you connect with other people with a similar or the same condition, that just changes everything. It changes your outlook on yourself, your outlook on the future, your role in the community. All of a sudden you have the opportunity to contribute to the community, and there is almost nothing more empowering than realizing you are able to contribute to somebody else. And so all of those things, I think, come along with reaching out to others and getting involved in the community. And so a lot of people here are you doing that? But for the people who are a little apprehensive, I would say take your time, do it on your own time for sure. But I would really encourage you to get involved.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the most critical pieces is having that community of support. And like you said, finally realizing that you're not the only one and that there are
Right.
others going through this and that can walk with you and understand what you're going through. So that's a really, really important piece. Do you feel different about your diagnosis now that you've been able to take what could have been it could have just devastated your life and your motivation and now you've turned it into something amazing and you're changing people's lives. So do you feel different today about your diagnosis?
Yeah, I think I do. I mean, um because I think it just perspective.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that changed, right? Like I have the perspective of all these experiences that I have gained in my life. And, when it feels like there's so much weight on your shoulders and the world is going to crush you, and there's so much pressure and stress, when you stand up or wheel up or however you get along, and you make it to the other side of that challenge that seemed impossible, it's so empowering.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where my empowerment and confidence comes from now, is knowing that I've come so far in my life in conquering all those things. And I have to give credit to my friends and family for helping me be able to do that, because I wasn't confident in myself, and I didn't always have this perspective, right? And so when I was diagnosed when I was 17, it was up to my friends and family to support me because I didn't have that perspective. And I'm so incredibly grateful that I had that support. And you know what? I have the opportunity to be part of that support for other people in the community now. And that is one thing that I really love as well. And everyone has that opportunity.
Yeah, that's great. So in line with your answer to that question, the next question asks about how you have supported your family getting through the diagnosis process and helping them to understand your diagnoses, the challenges that that means for you, but also the victories that that can bring for you. So kind of how has that been for you with family and friends and helping them to understand what
Yeah.
this is for you?
I think I took a cue from my parents, because my parents never forced anything on me. Um, and they let me find out in my own time. However, what they did do that I really appreciate is they found out as much as they could, so that when I was ready to ask the questions, that they didn't look at me and go, I had no idea. And I think that's an important thing for me to the rest of my family, to what my uncles and aunts and friends, even, let's count them as family for sure. I certainly don't force anyone to, awareness or anything. Like, I am absolutely proud of the FA community, and I don't hide the fact, obviously, that I have FA, but what I don't force it on anyone. And what I do is I prepare myself, because when people have questions, and then I want to be prepared with either answers or ways to find the answers.
Mhm.
And so I think that's probably the most important thing, is just being informed so you can be prepared to react to when people are ready to find out more.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Um, so I think you've along those lines have created a new T-shirt tagline. Don't put my disability between you and me.
Oh, I like it. All right.
Right. Yeah, that's great. So the next question is, of all of your rides, what your favorite ride, and which ride are you most proud of?
Oh man. My favorite was probably, we did a ride with the FA community in France.
Oh wow.
And we rode 8 days from Strasbourg, France to Lyon, France. And It was mostly on bike trails, and we rode about 65 miles a day. And there was 20 people from the US and 30 people from France, and we all ate together twice a day, and stayed in the same hotels, and a lot of us share rooms. And there's just something that happens when everyone is really focused on the end goal. The goal is to get there and raise awareness for FA. We're all doing this for the same reason, and we're all in these cramped hotel rooms, and everyone is sore and tired and crappy. And but when you're doing it all for the same cause and everyone's on the same page, it's really amazing the connections that can happen. And so that's the one ride that I love the most. There was certainly a language barrier, but we got through that, and because of what we all felt for the cause and for each other. The ride that I'm most proud of, I think, that I would say is we did a ride up Mount Evans, which is the highest paved road in North America, and it's right outside of Denver. The summit was over 14,000 feet, and
Wow,
we started at about six and a half, like 6,500 feet. And that one, I'm really proud of completing that ride.
that's wonderful. And so tell us who you look to for inspiration.
I look to my fellow community members, in the FA community, in the rare disease community, in the mitochondrial disease community. And there are some people doing some really cool stuff, right?
Yeah.
And some of the stuff that I do, they can't do, but a lot of stuff that they do, I can't do, right? And um, I draw inspiration from all the people in the community, uh, dealing with and fighting through their challenging circumstances and coming out the other side a better person. And me looking at that going, oh my gosh, maybe I can do that too. Maybe I can be just as inspirational and as these people. So that's who I look for. And at the same time, I realize that I'm one of those people, and you're one of those people, and we all are to our community.
Right.
So
That's wonderful. So the next question is, I know some people prefer disability first language because it emphasizes the political meaning of being a part of a community who share the challenge of a largely inaccessible society. But some prefer people first language because it emphasizes the disability is not the total definition of who we are. What kind of language do you prefer and why?
oh, you know what? For a while I was like, what is this? This is who cares, But then, as a disabled dude, I was like, wait, that makes so much sense. The way I define myself and the way I define other people is so important. It's fundamental, right? In terms of the political aspect and the way society is, that doesn't resonate for me, and that I have nothing against those thoughts, but I just don't that it doesn't matter as much as how I define myself, how I think of myself, and how the disability and just the language can get in the way sometimes of us accomplishing the things we want out of life.
Yeah. Really good. So you talked in the beginning about your progression to getting to that century ride. And so what would be your words of wisdom to somebody who's looking to take that first step,
Yeah,
right? To whatever that bigger goal is. And that first step could be simply walking to the mailbox. That could be their
totally.
goal, whatever that century representation is for them. What's your thoughts to them about just taking that first leap of faith?
Yeah, you know what, I like I said in my talk, my first ride was 7 miles, and it actually, when I think about it, it was probably more like three. I rode across town to a poker game that my friends were having, and getting there and then being like, seriously, you rode your bike here, what? And it was only 3 miles, right? But um and then just being completely obsessed with cycling.
Mm,
um like, that's all I wanted to do, that's all I ever thought about. And I think that's what's hard sometimes. You know, people see me on a trike, and then they get on a trike
yeah.
and their legs don't work like mine, or like they had hoped, and it's very, very discouraging. But what they don't see, and what is all the work, and I that I put in, and I wouldn't even call it work so much as just feeding an obsession. And so I think that focus and intentionality is important. Um, if your goal is to walk to that mailbox, one step, right? And then two steps, maybe a week later, and just total focus on that goal. My goals kind of came over time. The century, that certainly was not anything that really crossed my mind when I first started writing. I remember writing an email to a friend that said I wanted to ride my trike across country, and at that time there was no way I ever could have. Well, there was no way I could have done that at that time, but it just took a lot of riding my trike. Just rode my trike every day, and I don't do it every day right now, but it certainly is my favorite place to be. And so my advice is just do it a lot.
Yeah.
Thing.
And take that first step. Just one day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't take the 150th step unless you take the first one, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. So can you tell us a little bit about how you and Sean met and how the two disabled dudes became to be?
Yeah. So, like I said, I was diagnosed when I was 17. Did the bike ride across the country in 2007 when I was about 25. And when I got back, I got an email from some guy who had FA, who also lived in Sacramento, and wanted to get together for lunch. And Sean had seen an article in the newspaper, and he was like, wait a minute, this guy has the same rare disease. He lives in the same town, and he's doing things with his life. I wanna see what's up with that. So we went to lunch, and really the rest is history. We rode together in 2008 when we did the ride from Sacramento to Las Vegas. We rode together, and he started getting his network involved in all the fundraising that we were doing. And then, so one in Race Across America, that I talked about in my talk. Sean was on that race. He was on our team, and we had a documentary crew with us the whole time. And they made an amazing documentary. I'm a little biased, right? But I would highly recommend it. It's called The Ataxian, and you can get it on Amazon and iTunes and Google. But anyway, I was at a screening for that film, and I was watching it, for the 25th time, and Sean had some really amazing monologues in the film that will just explode your heart and your mind. Yeah, it's just really great. And I was like, we need to talk about this stuff on a regular basis. And I had been a guest on a podcast, and they didn't do a very good job. I didn't think, I was like, I think we could do better than this. And so, those two things kind of came together. I threw the idea out to Sean, and he said, all right, let's do it, and that's one thing I love about my friendship with Sean is that, we can throw ideas out and then just go after them. And it's been an incredible journey so
Yeah,
far.
I've had the pleasure of seeing you guys speak in person live, and your chemistry and how you feed off of each other. It's really a delight to watch. So, so I would
Thank you.
encourage everybody to take the time to join into your podcast, and listen to you guys and follow you on your podcast. So
Yeah,
one
and
last, go ahead.
well, I just want to say, I laugh because it's we have fun.
Yeah,
We laugh the whole time, Yeah, certainly there are some serious things that we talk about, but we also give each other a lot of grief, and we crack up so much. And so I would, yeah, thank you for directing people there.
yeah, I would say yes. I mean, that was the one thing that I took away is that you guys do crack up and you get infectious. And so you can't help walking away and just feeling better and just
Yeah,
feeling more inspired and more hopeful, because you guys really, it's
thank
an
you.
incredible chemistry that you have. So one last question.
Of course.
Tell us a little bit about, what made you decide to write a book and what that process was like for you.
Yeah, so one of the driving factors was that I really wanted to get the we our ride from San Diego to Memphis. I wanted it down on paper so it would live forever. Simple as that. But I also really had a desire to write my thoughts down so that I could see them and shift the words around if needed and really figure out what I was thinking and some of the principles that I really hold close, put them down in black and white so I could see it.
Yeah.
And I worked with a really incredible author named Alex Schnitzler, and we would have phone calls like, I don't know, 2 hours a week. And then every couple of months, he would send me a chapter and we would go over it and edit it. And the phone calls it wasn't like, hey, write this down. It wasn't me just telling him what to write. It was us discussing, like, all right, this thing happened. What does it mean to me? What did it mean back then, now, and what might it mean in the future? And I think that's something that we don't do enough in life is really scrutinize the things that happen to us or the experiences that we've had and be like, all right, what does this mean? What do I think about this? And how might somebody else find it valuable? And so anyway, it was a really neat process of really discovering things about myself through the book.
Yeah, well, we are excited to share it with two of our attendees tonight. And so we'll be doing a drawing either later tonight or in the morning, and we will post and reach out to you if you are one of the lucky two that will get a chance to get a free copy of Kyle's book. So Kyle, I can't thank you enough for helping us kick off this awareness week. Clearly, you know, what I take most from you is just your spirit of giving. And you've taken what just could have been a completely bum deal, right? Could have been the worst news in life, but you have turned that around and you have lived such a full life that we are all so much better for having you in, because you truly inspire us. And you lived such an incredible life despite your diagnosis. And
Wow.
it's incredible, and you truly are an inspiration. And I hope everybody can leave here feeling a sense that they can do whatever they want to do. They can do whatever they set their mind to, because you have, and you've been that example for us.
Oh, thank you so much. I was tearing up a little bit. That's not hard to do. I cry a lot. But um and I that is so generous. What I ask of everyone watching though is that if they felt that from me tonight, that they pay it forward to their community
Yeah,
and make us all better, right? That is what makes us. So
absolutely, right? Because you never know what someone's struggles are. And just that little small, any small act of kindness and sharing can change someone's life. And you truly are a pure example of that. So we
thank you.
appreciate that. So just a couple reminders. Today's presentation will be posted on our website shortly for anyone who would like to listen again and share with others, or go back and listen at a later date. It will be available on our website at www.mitoaction.org, and also on our podcast channels, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Thank you all so much for joining. We look forward to having you jump in and join us for the other awareness activities throughout the week. Please be safe, and if there's anything Mito Action can do to support you and your family, please don't hesitate to reach out. So have a wonderful evening, everyone.